Well, thank you, Maritza, for accepting our interview with ASIP. Let's just start by talking about you and your history with the city of Calexico.
I was born in Calexico Hospital, and Calexico Hospital actually was functioning as a hospital. I went to Calexico High School. I'm a graduate of our high school here, went to IVC. I started a business with my mother in 1987 when I was 21 years old. It's still there, 27 years later, serving the community with different services as far as immigration, citizenship, income tax services. So I know my community really well. I'm very involved with my community. I'm very active in sports, children's sports, things like that. I've always loved to be a volunteer, love to do those types of activities just by nature. By nature, I'm a giver. And when the community came to me in 2010 and asked me to run, I wasn't too sure about it. I really didn't think I was made for city council. City council tends to be very, very difficult on your personal life and things like that. And so I knew that that was probably a possibility for me as far as exposing my life to that. And so I knew that maybe my personality wasn't the right personality. It was very sensitive. And so I didn't want to do it at first, but there was a lot of pressure from my friends and people in the community that thought that I was a good candidate and asked me to run, and actually brought me the documentation to fill out. So I went ahead and I did that. And that first year, then that first campaign was myself as the only female running against 4 gentlemen. One of those being the incumbent. And at the end of the actual final tally of the results of the campaign, I was number 1 in votes.
What is the current state of the city of Calexico?
Well, kind of segueing from that nice time when I ran 4 years ago to where we're at now, it is a very, I will say, similar circumstances to what we were 4 years ago. When I walked into city council 4 years ago, we were $5 million in the hole. And we were struggling along with any other city practically in California or the United States that was struggling financially. And the city of Calexico had just adhered to a very strict budget, letting go quite a bit of people. It was a very, very sad situation of having to tighten our belt. After that first year, walking into a very, very difficult situation, after that first year, we started working really hard as a council, and we began to see balancing. And we began to see some regulating of our circumstances and some accomplishments. It was probably about a year or so ago when our new election provided a new council member, when we began to feel quite a bit of differences on our city council, which, as many of the individuals in Calexico know, those differences still exist.
There's been a lot of allegations throughout your time in office, from lawsuits against the city to not being honest about donations that were supposed to be made to Between Women, a breast cancer support group. Could you address those allegations?
I think that maybe we could take it in 2 parts, and I'll take the last one first. You said that the allegations were about not being honest with some of the donations of the extra things that I do in my life, right? Is that what you said? Actually, the allegations are that I stole money, and I think that it's important to know that the readers and your viewers watch the right claim to understand what's happening. So the claim actually from the accusers is that I stole money. And so the association of police officers that have made those claims on a radio ad, in a smear campaign, and on smear billboards, have not to this day provided any evidence that I am guilty of anything. So it is extremely dishonorable for a police officer in law enforcement to make those types of claims without first processing the person. So it just doesn't make sense. There has been no lawsuit, and as a matter of fact, approximately on September the 15th, I had a 2-hour press release about these exact issues. And these exact issues that keep coming out there are purely slanderous. And I went ahead and I did a media release and a media conference so that the media can come and visited with me. Actually, we visited here, and I produced my information that I have to be able to substantiate that the fact that these claims are just purely claims.
You've had a long and well-documented confrontation with the Calexico Police Officers Association. How did that begin, and how did it get to the point that they are paying for radio ads against you and posting signage around the city stating those same accusations?
I really appreciate you asking me these questions because I think it's really important that citizens know more details as far as why these things occur in a city like this. About 2 years ago, we had another campaign where one of the former council members was running, and a smear campaign similar to the one that's being done to me was also conducted against that candidate. And the union that conducted that campaign was the Police Officers Association. I personally took offense to the signs that were out there with devil horns, red eyes, painted on this candidate's face. I know that candidate extremely well and is a very honorable gentleman. And so I felt that it was, again, a dishonor for law enforcement officers to conduct themselves that way. And we had a discussion about that, the police officers president and myself. And the discussion was with regard to why. Why would you want to handle a campaign like that in such a small city like us? And instead of spending that type of money on a smear campaign to hurt someone and hurt their family, I was suggesting to that person to please comply with his promises to our girls softball league here in Calexico, that he had promised to give them monies from the sale of fireworks, that we provided them the opportunity to do that, and which I was under the understanding that their end of the bargain, as far as the police officers union paying the young ladies that helped to sell those fireworks during the summer, that they go ahead and they pay them. And so we had some differences as far as how this union was being viewed by our citizens, and that the citizens in the community have needs, and those needs are donations. And those donations were being played around with, I'll say, in my view, by this union. And so the fact that I asked those questions about where did that money go that those young ladies worked really hard for, and especially because, in my opinion, it just seemed as if that money was being used to be able to smear a candidate, a really good candidate. And it just didn't make sense to me. I wasn't accepting it very easily because I knew the truth. And so the behavior to me was uncalled for, inappropriate, and just not something that, I know that everyone has rights. However, it just doesn't look good if you're a law enforcement officer behaving in that manner.
Now, in regards to the JPIA, what do you think about the JPIA considering a letter of intent to remove Calexico's coverage?
The JPIA issue has been something that has concerned me for maybe 2 years now, that they've been discussing this with us, and the severity of where we're at. It is excruciatingly difficult to single-handedly, or I know I'm not alone, but when you don't have the support from your co-members on your council to really believe that we have a real problem here, then I feel that there is no support to ensure that we all understand the severity of this. Because we do have some council members that do not believe it's a problem. But it is a problem. If you do not have your insurance, and this type of insurance will cancel you, no one will probably want to touch you and provide insurance to you. If the city of Calexico does lose its insurance, then what's going to happen is we're going to have to shut down. And there's a city by the name of Maywood, California, that as council members, we go to training. And in that training, they tell us about all these different cities, because that is the talk around city governments at this time of what cities are going into bankruptcy, what cities are losing their insurance, like we're at that risk. What exactly happens in dirty campaigns? We get so much different training. And in the different trainings recently is the city of Maywood's story. And the city of Maywood had a very similar problem where there was very bad governance going on in the council, and the JPIA decided, we don't want you, we don't want to cover you. So Maywood had to close its city down and had to be run by the next city over.
how did it get to the point that the police association has gone to the effort of putting ads out there in the radio and making a campaign against it?
As I was saying to you earlier, the negative campaigns, the smear campaigns, is not uncommon for this union. They did that 2 years ago to another candidate. So they are already known to handle themselves in the past this way. So in a way, I was already kind of expecting it, because I knew that they were already a little upset with me, because when I was the mayor, they continuously, the union did, certain members, because I'll say as of now, it's not all your members in a union that usually will do the handling of everyday issues and what have you, but in this case we had few members that approached me about wanting to discuss things with me, and so I agreed. And one discussion turned into several different, insisting on several different meetings. And as we go along and we're learning how councils work, unions can usually approach a council member with concerns and what have you. However, the dealings, that everyday dealings, is usually supposed to be handled with your city manager. As a council member, we are only policymakers. And when it comes to employees, as you all are learning with the experiences that we have now, when it comes to employees, council members should not be involved. That is the responsibility of the city manager. So what ended up happening is that these individuals continuously began to pressure me. They insisted to meet with me in private businesses of certain friends of theirs, and they wanted me to meet them in bars and things like that. And I didn't want to conduct myself in that way with them so unprofessionally. And so when I began to sense that not only were they asking me for continuous meetings, these meetings, the content of them, were beginning to be what I felt as unwarranted pressures and unwarranted suggestions in certain ways, where I felt that my position as a mayor and as a representative of the council was basically trying to be, I'll even say, controlled by these few individuals. So if anyone knows me, they know that I'm a very independent person. I've ran my own business for 27 years now. I float my own boat. And I believe that this community asked me to run because I am an independent individual, and I don't usually need to be a follower, and much less if I am in a position that I'm in to represent my community as a leader. So those pressures that these individuals were placing on me were extreme. They were rude, and in a way I felt it was at a point of bullying. And so I felt there was something wrong there. I thought that if these union members were going so far as to bully me, the mayor of the city, I felt that what could they be doing to the rest of the city, the other citizens that live here? If there was no respect for me as the mayor and as the elected official that I am by these employees, I figured that maybe there was some lack of respect throughout the community, and I actually have seen that personally, where they have been disrespectful. And to me, that it makes me cringe, as far as not expecting that from our law enforcement officers. And so I believe that the small community and the staff of the city of Calexico understand where our problem is, just like I do. And as you know, we have a new chief of police that's going to be handling this issue now. That the disrespect that we have been going through, as far as through services in the department and behaviors and what have you, that needs to shift, needs an adjustment. We need to remember that our citizens need respect, and that we're providing services to them. We are public servants. So as far as differences with them and why they felt they needed to attack me in that manner, is simply because I'm not a follower, and that I was not easily going to be allowing for someone to basically tell me what to do. As representatives, I believe it's important to take the input of the community, but it has to get to a point where I'm up there. We are the ones that are sitting at that dais and making the decisions. And so when I make my decisions on any item that we're looking at on council, I'm going to take into consideration all the information that exists around it, due diligence, input from the community, and at the end of the day, it's my decision. So this confrontation that I've had with them
is because last year when we were experiencing some of these difficulties, it was evident that we had a department with rogue officers. And those rogue officers then were beyond their calling, their responsibility as law enforcement officers. And it's hard to differentiate exactly who is who and who are the bad apples and who are not, because we have some excellent officers. And as a matter of fact, throughout all of this ordeal, I have had constant contact from many of the different officers in our department who have told me, keep fighting, Maritza, we need to clean this up. And so I know that I have the support from many of the officers. When we received the news that we had a new chief, they called me to thank me and to say thank you, we really needed this change. So as far as my relationship with my staff in the police department, I've never failed them as far as being there for the right reason. And when you have certain members of certain unions that forget why we're here, and I'll remind them, we're here for the citizens. We're here to service the citizens. That's what we're here for. And I actually reminded them personally in conversations with them to remind them that my position is and always will be my community.
Now, recently, Castro has made comments in the Imperial Valley Press that he was not concerned about the JPIA pulling the insurance from Calexico. He stated that there are other insurances out there, as if there were an option. How much does it concern you that at least one of your colleagues may not completely grasp the scope of the situation?
Extremely concerning. Extremely concerning, and that's another issue, is that insurance and the importance of insurance is probably not very well understood by these members. It's obvious, because the discussion of insurance and the lack of insurance has already been on our agenda with conflicts of interest of these counselors and their lack of understanding. There is no solution that I can have for you other than the citizens participate and that the citizens have discussions with these council members to understand where they're coming from. But I will add that this is not auto insurance. This is not home insurance. This is a municipality that we're insuring. It's a whole other monster. And just as you heard when we were receiving information from our staff the other day at the meeting, is that once you are canceled from this type of insurance, you will have a bad record. And if you ever get insurance ever again, it is going to cost you so much money. As a matter of fact, just recently, last year, we had an increase in our policy premium of $2 million. It is already costing us a lot of money. Our policy premiums went up because of all of the different claims, workers' comp, liability, all of these different types of claims that are coming into the city, very severe from the department, the police department, the different issues we have coming from there too. So this insurer sees us as a liability, as a problem. They don't want us to be able to cover us anymore. They're holding on at this point, in my opinion, because they can see we're trying. They can see that our city manager is trying by hiring the right, capable person to straighten up our police department.
The JPIA issues is one of the most important issues facing the city right now, but it seems that the council and the community are not giving it the attention it deserves. What are your thoughts on this matter, given that in just a few weeks, the JPIA could make the decision to revoke the city's insurance?
I think that videos like this, and that the youth of Calexico like yourselves are involved now, I think it takes a lot of thinking outside the box, exactly what's happening here, modern thinking, and not just hoping and praying for things. We actually need to be active. We need to make decisions, firm decisions to save ourselves. This is no longer a decision about wanting to, bring another chief back because he was my friend, or allowing for overtime because they're my friends, or turning your face back because something happened and there was an issue and you're just going to ignore it. No, we're not at that point anymore. We're at a point now where we need a lot of truth, and I am trying my best to give that truth out there to the public, but I'm only one person. And I'm doing it right now in between juggling a campaign and a very negative smear campaign against me. So my messages out there are several. It's about so much that's going on that sometimes those messages get lost. And I agree with you. It seems as if people don't see that this is very serious. Last night we had a debate, and I made sure to squeeze that in there into one of my 1-minute responses was about the JPIA wanting to cancel us. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. But because they see that this new city manager is absolutely just trying his really darndest to get this fixed and to comply, but the people who we feel should be the most concerned, which is our elected officials, are, in my opinion, working against us at this point.
Between now and November 19, the date of when the council is to meet with the JPIA Executive Committee, there is an election and you may not return to your seat. Would it worry you that you may not be able to be part of that meeting and share your thoughts?
Actually, I may still be seated on the 19th, because usually when the campaign finishes, they're not sworn in, the new members, if there's going to be new members, they're not sworn in until the first days of December, usually. So the middle of November, most likely will still be seated. But if we want to talk about the ramifications after, a tragic event, let's say if we were to lose the insurance, I love my community so much. Yes, that would be extremely detrimental to me, because I know how much it's going to hurt everybody. So I just hope that doesn't happen. That's all I can say.
Would you feel any sort of responsibility should the JPIA choose to end its relationships with Calexico?
I'm sorry, can you do it again?
Would you feel any sort of responsibility should the JPIA choose to end its relationships with Calexico?
Absolutely. I have to accept responsibility of what it is that's occurring here on this council. Even though we have 5 very different people with very different ways of thinking that do not always agree, we are one body. And that one body is as a independent decision maker. Whatever decision comes out of that, 3-2, 4-1, 5-0, we all are called council, and we all are going to go down in history with this on our record. Yes.
What are some positives that you've seen in Calexico during your time as a city council?
The Grand Plaza. The Grand Plaza to me was something that, in knowing that these investors purchased this property over 10 years ago, and it sat there for 10 years until the right time, and they are from a totally different city and saw the potential here. And they fought and they fought and they fought, and they worked and worked and worked until it happened. And it was very unfortunate when that happened, because we did have a 3-2 vote that day as well. And that day was very disappointing. I was physically sick. I couldn't believe that there wasn't the support that we should have given to this project. But it happened. And going to that project during the Christmas time and seeing my young lady friends there with 2 jobs and 2 different stores, and everyone's happy because everyone's working, and the hustle and bustle of all those sales, and to see that they're still there, they're struggling a little bit just like everyone else, but there's still big plans. And those kinds of projects, whatever they may be, it represents hard work behind it. And people want to see that kind of thing. The pool should have been built already, but we're struggling with that. I hope that happens next year. We deserve that too. But one important thing about politics is that when we run for council, a lot of times a lot of us will say, when I'm there, I'm going to do this. And when I'm there, I'm going to do that. Oh, that doesn't happen. When you get there, you're trying to organize your own ideas with the ideas of other people, putting everybody together and see what comes out. And when you don't have harmony, it is a struggle. And I have struggled for quite a bit to be able to get anything done. And it's very interesting because, yes, I will have to take blame of us not being able to do anything. For example, the parks, the green areas. Some decisions were made to change and shift around some of the staff to see if that would work and make it happen. We sat at many different meetings where a lot of our council members criticized the conditions of our parks, but yet there were no meetings. There was no decisions. There was no action. So there was no There was, when we did have meetings, these council members didn't show up. So it's absolutely a frustration to have worked in this period of time. Now people ask me, why do you want to run again? Do you want to ask me that question? Why do you want to run again? The reason I want to run again is because if I don't, and I'm not there to at least be somewhat of a voice for the people that are here in Calexico, then who will speak up? Because throughout like this experience that we're having now with JPIA, I will give you my opinion, my very open opinion, and I will speak up. I will ask hard questions, and I definitely want the answers. But if you'll notice, no one else does. None of the other members have ever asked a question, what's going on? They assume that they're going to be okay. But this is our lifeline, that if we lose this, that's it for us. And so I ask myself, is it because they're not comprehending, or they just don't want to comprehend how complex this is and how crucial it is? But I am not them. I am myself. So we are in a situation where there is no working out with these members. We cannot have discussions with them. There is no bending. There's no giving. It is just a cut and dry decision that they feel the manner that they do, that if we lose the insurance, oh well. I don't believe like that. I don't. So unfortunately, that is the representatives that we have at this moment. And I believe that a lot of people at this point are saying, bring in new members, maybe they can get along with these two. No, I don't necessarily believe that that's the right way to vote. You're going to vote for the people who you feel are capable, and the people who you feel that the worth ethics are those that are required at this point, including the dynamics, because in order to tolerate what we're tolerating at this time, the given fact that I've been a business owner for 27 years, and I've dealt with a lot for my clients and their lives and what I've done, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, I've experienced a lot. And I believe that I have that capacity to be able to handle what we need to do, good or bad, from here on in.
So you're in a very unique position. You're a current city council member and you're running for re-election. So since you're up for re-election next week, if you were not to be re-elected, how would you feel about your performance as a council member?
Absolutely satisfied. A little frustrated in that I felt towards the end of these last 4 years a bit of loss of focus, really, where we should have been. We just should have kept working on the real issues, but a lot of time was wasted. So I would feel satisfied as far as my performance and my decisions, because I always have voted my conscience, always. So that I'm very satisfied.
So is there anything that you would have done differently if you were given the chance?
I would probably learn to be less emotional. The circumstances that were extremely heavy on all of us takes a toll, and so I'm human, but I'm also learning, and I'm learning to be able to have thicker skin. So, you have to have thick skin for this, and during Calexico's times right now, you have to have really thick skin. So I feel that has helped me quite a bit to tolerate. And that's the word, actually. You have to tolerate a lot of this stuff and remember what your focus is. And in my case, that's why I don't stop. I stop only because, physically I'll be tired. But as far as where my soul and my spirit is, I'm a bulldog.
So in the event that you do not get reelected, what advice would you give to your successor?
Community first. I always think that way. Community first.
If you are reelected, how will you use your previous experience to make the next time better?
I think more training in team building. And that is one thing that I do recognize, is that because I've been self-employed and I've been the person to call the shots for 27 years in my own business, coming to work with other people in this level of decision making has been quite of an experience for me. A little difficult, because I don't have training in knowing how to sit down with other individuals who are also decision makers. But I'll once again remind everyone, in my first 3 years, from 2010 to 3 years after that, 2013, I actually had it pretty good. We actually did a really good job there, all of us. It's just recently. It was just recently that we've had big differences, and caught me off guard on how severe they were. And so again, as human beings that we are, we have natural reactions to things. And I believe that I would probably want to be much more enlightened as far as how to handle the human nature, the human aspects of it, the interrelations, to get that better. No one ever expects to have the worst case scenario. We got it. We have that worst case scenario right now. So I know that the training's out there because we've already received it. But it's so important that everybody gives of themselves to participate in the training and want to actually take something home from it. But I'll give you an example. The last training, which was team building, we were asked the question, do you trust your team members? And one of our council members said no. And so, that there is real difficult to understand. And I'm talking about one of our council members who actually knew my mother very well, and a council member that was great friends with my mother. And my mother passed away 17 years ago. But yet here I am, that child of a person that he felt so close to, but yet I have no relationship with him. And on the contrary, he feels, I'm against him. So these very interesting dynamics amongst the council is not repaired by situations on the outside. It's repaired within ourselves. And it's like a marriage. Nobody knows what happens behind closed doors. So no one knows what happens in closed session. Nobody knows how relationships in behind closed doors. It's about us. So I really do believe in more training. I really do believe in maybe even creating a pact, which was what I believed that at that time Mayor Hodge was going to be doing, because that's when the issue started when he was mayor, and that we were going to be able to maybe settle some of our differences that way, where all of us agreed to what the pact would be about, what behaviors would have ramifications, and that we all agree to it. But we can't even get there. So I have a lot of faith in Mayor Moreno. It feels real different now that Mayor Moreno is here leading our meetings. I like his mannerisms. He's a very easygoing type of mayor, respects everybody. I've never had any issues with Mr. Moreno, and we have not always voted the same. That is the professional experience and the professional relationship that I expected when I came to this council. And unfortunately, I haven't had that. And so for someone like myself that's always conducted themselves in such a responsible and respectful way with everyone, I'm a very well-known individual in this community, very well-known. Those people who know my character know that I'm very respectful, and as a matter of fact, I'm very easygoing. I'm a real fun person. I love to have positive experiences. But when you put me to work in a very difficult, serious situation, and I see that it's not the same cooperation of focus and of, I'll call it cariño for our community, it's very frustrating. I felt at one point ineffective. But again, I know that seat is very important, because if you don't have a seat like that, even though I may be the minority is really important too. And the minority has to be a part of democracy. It has to. And that is basically also what I've been struggling in this council, is to ensure that although for a certain period of time the decision making was mostly where my vote was a minority vote, still had a value. It still had a voice. And I believe that that's where a lot of my problems have been with many of those who come to attack me, is that I'm very vocal. But I think I have every right to be vocal, just as anyone else does. And I believe that as your elected official, it's necessary for me to speak up, because I think that's what's happened to Calexico for a long time, is a lot of people won't speak up. But in my case, I have nothing to lose. I'm self-employed. I'm not married, so it's not as if I'm gonna, have someone want to divorce me or something. And my family and my children support me. They stand behind me 100%, because they know that I'm all about community, and they know I'm a giver. So as far as coming into this job, I really did think that I would be able to shine with what I know how to give. But I feel that the complications that have existed is for a reason, and it's because I know I'm fighting for the right thing, and that I'm representing what you wanted me to do. when you elected me. You wanted me to represent you. And you didn't want me to represent the union. You didn't want me to represent the compa system. You didn't want me to represent the friends next door. You wanted me to represent everyone in general. And that's what I'm trying to do. Not all of us, I believe, are the same.
We asked our followers at ASIP if they had any questions for you, and they gave us some.
Okay.
The first one says, many people believe that some of your actions taken against certain council members by suing them have costed the city and the citizens taxpayer money. Do you accept this, or do you think this is okay to do?
Okay. There has not been a lawsuit, so I'm not sure why the reference to a lawsuit. It was not a lawsuit, and I think it's important to clarify. There's a federal agency that when you feel discrimination and harassment, sexual discrimination in your workplace, you can contact them and make a claim. Just like as if you had a claim with your employer and you go to the labor commissioner. Okay? Council members are paid in a employee style. We get a W-2 at the end of the year. And because of that purpose, and the federal government sees me as an employee, and I felt completely harassed at that period of time, I felt I had the right to contact an agency. Because also, I believe that in order for me to be able to serve my community appropriately, I should work in an environment that's free of harassment. And at that period of time, I felt very harassed. I sought out assistance from our city attorney, no assistance there, and other agencies. And so the rights that I have as a person who's been affected by harassment, I also have rights, I felt, and so I made a claim. The claim was not a lawsuit. And that claim has been closed because what I wanted from the get-go, after experiencing what I've experienced, being the only female working around 4 men, is that there needed to be some training, and that these council members needed to understand a little more about the harassment issues that I was experiencing. So I was very satisfied with the 3-hour training in sexual discrimination and harassment that we all received together, and that was probably enough for me to be able to feel that they have now understood and have been put on some type of notice of what really is sexual harassment and discrimination. When they attended that course, then the claim was closed. There was never a lawsuit.
Why do people say that you hate the police department or its officers?
People are not saying that I hate the police department. The few bad apples in our union, which is very well known in this community who they are saying I am against law enforcement. There is no evidence of that. And the fact that I have an opinion about certain members of a union selectively discussing the issues I have had in the history of my service to the city with these selected individuals has been my only concern. I am not concerned about the rest of our staff. The rest of our staff, I am absolutely satisfied. I have great relationships with them, with many of them, and have a lot of contact with them. I always have. So this is not about Hurtado versus the police. It's not. What you see out there is only a few bad apples in our police department who have decided to create a witch hunt against me for being a person who has spoken out about irregularities that I have witnessed being a city council member. And those irregularities that I have witnessed and that I have spoken out about, I have that right to do that, and actually I have the fiduciary responsibility to do it. Because if we have bad apples in our police department, that is a concern for the safety of our citizens. And so I believe that it's my responsibility to speak out about that. But conveniently so, these bad apples have now twisted my intentions and twisted my efforts to try to make it look as if I'm against law enforcement 100%, which is just not the truth.
Final question. Someone asks, how can you convince the JPIA and their executive committee not to drop Calexico from their insurance pool? What can the citizens do to help?
I cannot convince them alone. I need the citizens to help. The citizens have witnessed very difficult meetings and meetings where the council members, the block of three, as many call it, continue to call these meetings and wanting to disturb our administration and the staff that's there. That disturbance, that involvement, that impeding of a smooth operation is what is driving JPIA to this point of wanting to release us. I cannot do this alone. And yes, what I have done is asked a lot of our citizens to please speak to these council members who are thinking this way, that JPIA has no meaning, and try to have them understand that their viewpoint is going to hurt a lot of people. And so it is up to the citizens. We all are in this, not just me by myself. I've been fighting this fight for quite a while now, trying to open everyone's eyes that we have a problem here on the way we're administering ourselves, and that we have issues and decisions that just scream bad governance. But I can't do it alone, because my claims, my cries, my concerns fall on deaf ears. But the citizens, those individuals that brought these people into office, are the ones that should be speaking up right now. And I know that they do. I know that a lot of them do. And we need more. So I'm calling out to all the citizens of Calexico to please get educated. Watch your city council meetings, watch your videos, watch what it is that's happening. I like your videos because you cut to the chase and you provide, the core of really what it is that's happening, and kind of leave out the extra. And some people may not want to participate because some people might think it's boring, but I think it's going to be a lot more boring when we realize that there's nothing left of the city of Calexico if we get to that point. So I don't want to be a fearmonger. I don't want to scare people or anything like that, but it is a really important time to get involved right now. And I try to motivate people as much as I can, and I think I do. A lot of people are very concerned about the over-exaggeration of attacks and retaliation and that really ugly sense of just ugly that exists right now. And a lot has to do with the lack of respect that we have in our police department. And I'm telling a lot of individuals that once we take care of these issues that are internally torturing us as a city right now, in that we need to get back our respect. We need to get back the respect towards the citizens so that the citizens feel safe again, that the citizens feel as if their services provided to them is a priority, and that especially the expenses, for example, the $1 million of overtime that was taken extra, that wasn't expected. With 1.4 million or what have you, what might have been that was taken extra in overtime, and no answers as to why, the last chief, no explanation. I don't want to even tell you why. All of that hurts your community, because $1.4 million could have bought a lot of stuff. Clean up our parks, clean up our downtown, clean up our streets. Everything that our citizens are asking for, we could have accomplished that with $1 million. And so when you have a department that is not with the program, everyone's going to suffer. And that is something that I have been really active and vocal about. And yes, at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, I have a dirty campaign against me. A dirty campaign, in my opinion, to make me quiet. But we're not going to do that. We're going to continue to represent this community, because I care enough to put myself in the middle of what it is that I know and I feel, in my opinion, is damaging us. And what that is when we have people that are within this organization that forget our focus.
In closing, what is your message to the citizens?
Vote. Vote your conscience. Don't vote because someone's your friend. Don't vote because somebody took you a hamburger or somebody made you empty promises. It's really important to vote for those people who have the capacity and that have the focus of the community, that paid a lot of attention to their history, ask for facts. In my case, for example, ask the union for facts to show that I have been guilty of anything that they're talking about. This is a really important campaign, and that is why money is being spent to get me out. I really feel strong, though, because I know that the community is waking up now, and that the community now realizes we're in serious times. And so if you're not voting for myself, please vote for that person that you know will take Calexico where it needs to go.
Thank you very much, Maritza. For more videos like this, visit us on Facebook /ACOIV.